It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up. All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, October 10th, and I'm back at you here. I apologize for missing you guys again yesterday. It was a long day of travel, rushing to the airport, getting to the next airport. It was way too loud in there to be able to pull it off, so I appreciate you guys having some patience with me on those days when I'm missing. But during my travels yesterday, I was reading a book. And I want to share with you guys some of the concepts and ideas from that book this morning. And I would suggest that some of you guys who are in business and just enjoy the study of business and people also take a peek at this book, because I think it's a really interesting concept, not just for business, but also for life. And so we're going to talk about specifically one of these principles that was in this book. But there's plenty more. I'll go through some of them with you guys this morning. But good morning, Patricia, Steve, Justin, Trudy, Elizabeth, Lydia. What's happening, guys? Good morning, and thank you guys for jumping on. So I was traveling back and forth to Milwaukee the last couple of days, and that requires multiple flights each direction. There's no way to get from Pittsburgh to Milwaukee direct. I could have flown to Chicago direct, but the flights back to Pittsburgh weren't the right time. So I ended up with quite a bit of travel. And usually when I end up with quite a bit of travel, I either, read consistently or I take a lot of audiobooks and download those and try to listen to those as well. So this trip I did a mix of both. So to give you guys some idea too, I took 4 books with me this time, and I take 4 books for the reason that I never know what kind of mood I'm going to be in, and sometimes I'm in the mood to read one thing versus another, and so and I read pretty much only business books. I read some things about sports and backgrounds, biographies about people in sports, something like that, but for the most part, I stick to strictly business books, things that I think will help myself, help you guys. And help me just live a better life. I don't necessarily read for entertainment. Good morning, Dean. What's happening? Trisha, good morning. But this particular book, guys, is called The Bezos Letters, and it's a guy that wrote this book. Is a technology guy. He's got a really strong resume. I believe he went to Princeton. And what he did was he went back through the letters that Jeff Bezos wrote to the Amazon shareholders from 1997 to today, and he started to analyze those for little trends on, what Jeff Bezos was doing and what his principles of Amazon were. And so this particular principle that we're going to talk about this morning is called encouraging successful failure. And so this was a really cool thing for me to read, and I think that it's something, again, you could certainly utilize it in business, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want you guys to also relate this to your life, because I think that we far too often try to avoid failure in our lives, and we think that everything is supposed to be smooth. And the reality is, if I look back on my experience in life, most of my growth has come from those biggest moments of adversity, right? Those moments where we are personally pushed to a limit that allows us to see how we react, what we do when we're pushed to those limits. And that's really what truly defines our future selves, is what we do in those moments that are really uncomfortable for us, that are beyond the limits that we've experienced so far. And what it said about Amazon and how Jeff Bezos kind of approaches the idea of successful failure is he basically has this idea that without failure, you cannot really reach your full potential, which I think a lot of business people do. But he actually budgets a lot of money for the idea of failure. You know, the idea of failure in Amazon's business has a budgetary financial number attached to it. And I found that to be really interesting. I don't think that a lot of businesses, necessarily function that way. I think everybody has like a little bit of an idea for failure. Zach, Thomas Edison and the light bulb, they actually talk about the background of Thomas Edison in this book, and it will enlighten you on exactly who Thomas Edison was. So Thomas Edison obviously is responsible for inventing the light bulb, but Thomas Edison is actually responsible for what we know today as commercial research. So he was the first person to put together a team and pay those people to do research on his behalf. And so he had a bunch of people in what we would refer to today as a think tank. And that was funded. It was literally money going into a business to encourage failure so that they could discover a lot of different things. And I believe, I'm not positive of the exact number, but I believe Thomas Edison had like just over 1,000 patents to his name when he passed away at 84 years old. So successful failure, guys, it sounds something like this. Do you have a tolerance for failure inventory at your company? How is failure handled? Think about that. Or in your life, how do you handle failure yourself in your own life? And what is the tolerance that you have for failure in your own life or in your business? Because I think that a lot of us run away from it. I think that a lot of us push back when we feel that pressure of failure. We re-navigate so that we can get around those things that are really difficult. We don't want to encounter difficult people in our lives, when in reality, those difficult people, those difficult scenarios, those moments of failure, those moments where you feel like you're going to lose it, but you don't, those are the moments that really create and define our future selves. And when I was reading this particular principle of encouraging successful failure, it was like, it just stood out to me with this gigantic spotlight of how we're supposed to live our lives. And we really live our lives the complete opposite of that. Right? I'll give you guys an example. My biggest fear of doing this show is missing days because of the thought of it losing momentum, the thought of, people being upset that, I'm not here in the morning, or man, I was really looking forward to that. And if I would have let that potential failure, that potential fear stop me from doing this, I would have missed out on so much. So I want you guys to think about that. What are some of the things that you have not done in your life? You have not implemented because you were afraid of those things. You were afraid of that feeling of disappointment or failure. And so you didn't actually even implement those things into your life. And what could you be missing out on as a result? The second point that I have here is, when is the last time that you used failure as a case study to improve yourself or improve your business? To look at those moments where you're pushed to your limits, where you fall down and get back up, and analyze those for future growth. So what you guys don't know about Amazon, or may not know, some of you may, is that back in 1999, Amazon took on the idea of competing with eBay. They were going to be also an online auction type site where people could auction for products and bid on products and things like that. People could sell, people could buy. And that program for Amazon was an enormous failure. But what ended up happening from that program is that they took all of those lessons, the team that worked on that, debriefed, took all of those lessons, and that turned into what is today called Amazon Marketplace, which is one of the most successful ventures that Amazon has. It's not just the products that Amazon sells, but it is the products that other people sell on Amazon sites using their delivery methods, using their distribution, using their processing for people to purchase products is one of the most successful business pillars that Amazon has. And it was born out of a previous failure. They tried to compete with eBay and they lost. The second failure that they used as a case study was the Fire phone. If you guys remember this, I think it was like 2004. They came out with a phone. No, it was 2014. I'm sorry, not 2004. 2014, they came out with a phone, and the phone was designed to help people shop easier from their phones. It was designed to help people, to drive people to Amazon's site, to help them shop in a more efficient fashion from their phone. And they started selling that phone at $698, and nobody bought it. And so they tried to reduce the price by contract prices and all these things, and so they had it down to 99 cents. You could get the phone with a contract with a phone carrier for 99 cents. It still didn't sell. And so Amazon in that year wrote off $178 million in losses from the Fire phone. That's a lot of money, right? If you guys go back and research this, it's all there. So $178 million write-off in one quarter, in the third quarter of 2015, I believe. And the Fire phone was a complete failure. The team that created the Fire phone, the head of development, the head of technology development that created that Fire phone, again, debriefed the group, took all of the lessons that they learned on how not to put something together, how not to market something, how not to develop things that were focused around them instead of focused around the customer. And they created what you know today as the Amazon Echo, which I have about 6 of in my house, which is Alexa as we know it today, right? It is everything that everybody has in their houses, all the screen devices, the Echo Show, the regular Echo, all of those devices were created from an enormous failure. And that is billions of dollars a year in sales today for Amazon. Billions. So when you guys think about these moments in your life where you feel pressure, you feel like you're failing, you feel like, I want you guys to remember, what is it teaching me? And how valuable are those lessons for my future, for those around me? One of the things that I tell people in our business is that, I feel like we get a lot of things right because of how many things I have seen go wrong in my career. Some of those being things that I observed, some of those things being things that I experienced personally. I've failed tremendously in certain situations. I've made very bad decisions at points in my life for a variety of reasons. Some out of desperation, some out of, just not doing my homework on situations that turned out not to be what I thought they would be. But those things, what I will refer to now in my life as successful failures, are what put me in the position to be where I'm at today. And I, by the way, guys, still take huge gambles and huge risks that could turn into very difficult situations for me. I obviously calculate those a lot differently today because I have a wife, I have children, I have people that rely on me. Back when I was making other decisions, I didn't have quite that many responsibilities, so it was easier for me to make those risky decisions. I will look at those things differently today, but I still take a huge amount of risk because I think that's what it takes. I think that's what it takes to really make it, to really make that board that I've got on the wall come true behind me. I have to take calculated risks, and sometimes those are big. Sometimes those are enormous. The last thing that I have here, the question I want you guys to ask yourselves is, what can you do in your company, in your business, in your life to communicate these failures as an opportunity to those around you to learn and improve. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to communicate to you guys how failure is really an opportunity. Here's the risky part of your business connected to failures. And I think a lot of businesses get this wrong. So those of you who are running businesses, part of businesses, lead businesses, anything like that, listen close. You absolutely have to keep a culture of encouraging failure, encouraging people to do things that they may not know how to do, that they may fail on, but they have to fail with structure. What happens in businesses when you fail over and over and over again, when you consistently get things wrong, the foundation is what's wrong. The foundation lacks process, it lacks direction, it lacks the discipline to review these failures, because what most businesses do is they get really upset and frustrated that they had that failure, and they don't take the time to gain the gold out of the failure. They don't take the time to tell their people it's okay that you go through these moments of failure. That's part of the deal. I'll give you an example from back when I worked in corporate America. I worked for Verizon Wireless for years. And we had a guy in a store that made a big mistake on a corporate account. And it cost the company around $8,000 in a bill credit to fix that customer's situation. It was a very, very bad thing at the time. I mean, it's a bill credit. They had gone over, so there's some cost to the things that we had to credit back, but ultimately it's never good in a corporate America setting when you're giving somebody $8,000. There's a lot of light on that. And so the guy came up to me and said, oh man, I know you had to issue them an $8,000 bill credit. I'm not going to get fired, am I, for what I did? And I said, absolutely not, man. We just paid $8,000 to train you. Just, you have to learn from it, right? And you have to understand what you did. So let's talk about how we got into that situation in the first place. In our business, we fail every day. There's something every day. We have a call every morning at 9 o'clock Eastern, and everybody on the team is on there. And there's something almost every day on that call at 9 o'clock that we didn't do 100% right. That's part of the process. If you're doing everything right, guys, you're probably not moving fast enough. So you want to encourage, you want to build a culture of successful failure in your business where pushing those limits is accepted, it's embraced. It's something that people feel comfortable doing, stepping outside their comfort zones. Because guess what happens when people are willing to step outside their comfort zones and failure isn't punished? Then they will be willing to jump in to things that they don't really know all about, that they're not totally comfortable with, that they're not 100% certain that they can pull off. They will be willing to jump in and help a teammate to do those things that they're not sure about. They will also embrace your feedback better, that it's okay to get in situations that you don't know how to get out of. And by the way, it's okay to even get frustrated. It's okay to express your frustration. It's okay to have, but once you're done expressing your frustration, then we got to get back to business, right? Because what happens sometimes with those things where people feel like they're failing, they get so uncomfortable that they have to express it and blame, deflect, talk about why it's not their fault. And the reality is, guys, is that those are the moments that can catapult us into greater heights in our lives and in our businesses. And that is a critical piece of growth in your life, in your business, is being able to harness that energy of failure, of difficult times, of adversity, that pressure that's coming against you in life, and be able to use that for fuel to take yourself to a whole new level. That's the truth. If you don't have those moments of failure, you're not going to have growth. It's just connected. That's just how it is. And so I would encourage you guys that when you see people around you having a tough time, use these ideas, use these methods to coach them and let them know that it's okay. It's part of the process. It's part of what we're supposed to go through to reach that better version of ourselves, to reach new heights in business, to get greater results. It requires failure. And I've coached people for years. I've been in leadership since I was 19 years old. So 21 years. And I've coached thousands of people in my lifetime. And I've been blessed to get these lessons firsthand, seeing people try to navigate around these moments of failure. And it just doesn't work that way. You can't, if you try to get from point A to point Z by going around every piece of adversity, it's going to take you 10 times longer to get where you're trying to go. And you're not going to learn those lessons if you just avoid all of the adversity. And those lessons, guys, are the most valuable thing to you, and they're also the most valuable thing to the people around you when you can help guide them without them having to take the long way. When you can give them the lessons, when you can shorten that cycle. Imagine what Amazon learned losing $178 million on the Fire phone. Imagine what they learned. Imagine what they learned building a site to compete with eBay that they couldn't get off the ground. And I'm telling you guys, this book, it's called The Bezos Letters. For those of you who jumped on late here, it's a very interesting book. And these principles, which, we're going to start talking about them in our businesses, but it's, there's a couple other ones I'll run through here for you guys, just in case you're interested in this book. Principle 2 is bet on big ideas. And there's an entire process that Jeff Bezos uses to do that. Principle 3 is practice dynamic invention and innovation, which I think we do pretty well in my company, but there's a lot of things in there that are gold. Their growth cycle is build, accelerate, scale, and test. They have an obsession over their customers. That's their motto. Not just customer focused, customer obsessed. That is, let's see here. Where's the next principle? Principle 5, apply long-term thinking. So I say this all the time, but play the long game, guys. You got to have short sprint goals, things that you're getting to every day, every week, every year. But the reality is that playing the long game is what creates success. The last 24 hours for our company has been phenomenal, unbelievable, like the things that have happened. And one of the customers that I met with, the customer that I flew to Milwaukee to meet with yesterday, I was tracking that guy down since 2012. It's actually how I closed the meeting yesterday. I said, I just want you to know, man, it is a pleasure to sit here and have this conversation because I've been trying to track you down since 2012. That's called playing the long game. And as soon as I did it, he literally reached over, picked up my business card, and read my name. And I said, I'm not a pest, man. You won't remember me. I'm not one of those guys. But I appreciate the opportunity. 2012, guys. That's playing the long game. Principle 6, understand your flywheel. What is at the center of your company's flywheel? What makes your company tick? What makes your company flywheel spin faster? Principle 8, make complexity simple. There's a phrase, and I might butcher this, but it is, I say sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. It is super easy, guys, to make something complex. It takes 10 times as long to make something simple. There is a quote, I can't remember it exactly, but it says, I have so much to do today that I'm going to spend the first 3 hours in prayer. That's simplifying a complex day. By what? Getting your mind right first. Creating processes that are simple take a lot of time. Creating things that are complicated don't take a lot of time at all. Principle 9, accelerate time with technology. This is something that anybody that's been around me, I believe in it 150%. We will take a lot of time to develop technology that saves us time, saves our customers time, and gives everybody a better experience. Principle 10, promote ownership. Big one. We could talk about all these every single day and really dig into every last one of them. Principle 11, maintain your culture. If you don't have the foundation of a great culture, you're in trouble in business. I can promise you that. That is the future. In 2019, 2020, culture is why people choose to work for companies. I promise you. We don't have any problem recruiting people in our company because people see the visibility of our culture. They want to work here. They want to be part of it. Principle 12, focus on high standards. Here's what he wrote in the letter to the shareholders. I'm going over on time here, but I hope this is valuable for you guys. Building a culture of high standards is worth the effort, and there are many benefits. Naturally, and most obviously, you're going to build better products and services for customers. This would be reason enough. Perhaps a little less obvious, people are drawn to high standards. They help with recruiting and retention. More subtle, a culture of high standards is protective of all the invisible but crucial work that goes into every company. I'm talking about the work that no one sees, the work that gets done when no one is watching. In a high standards culture, doing that work well is its own reward. It's part of what it means to be a professional. I'm going to give you guys this insight on this. Focus on high standards. I have coached lots of companies in my day, and I've had lots of companies shoot for a 3% increase, a 5% increase in sales from year to year. And I'm not telling you that every company achieves it, but if you shoot for low standards, people don't get excited to come to work. If you are shooting to be a world changer, a game changer, people want to be part of that. And that's what this is talking about. If you got low standards, you're not going to attract high performance. Principle 13, measure what matters. Question what's measured and trust your gut. Principle 14, and this is a powerful one. Believe that it's always day one. We're going to start talking about this every day in our business because I've thought about it this week quite a bit. What if you had a day one mentality in your business today? What if you went back to what got you where you are, what got you started, that fire inside of you that got you started on day one? And how does that impact your business today by you not acting with all the weight of all the beatdowns, of all the adversity, of all the failures? Get that weight off your shoulders and act. Come to work today like it's day one. How does it change your day? How does it change the people around you? How encouraged were you and motivated were you, inspired were you on day one? Interesting thought, right? And so these principles, guys, if you guys, this is actually, there's a free study guide that I found on this that actually Judd Burden sent it to me the other day that I'd be happy to share. If you guys want it, just DM me, just send me a message and I'll shoot it over to you in the file. And there is also a risk and growth assessment that's attached to this that you can look at your business, look at yourself, and figure out kind of where you're at. Which I think is really interesting. So if this was valuable, guys, please share this out. I think, this for all our contractor following out there, I think this is really beneficial, especially this time of year where we all start to look back and analyze our businesses as the year starts to close out here. I think that looking at these principles and figuring out how they roll into your own business is really, really beneficial. So, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like, share. I saw a couple people tag, a couple people shared. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for getting the message out there for me. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. These episodes are available on all podcast platforms. Please share. Leave a review if you go over to iTunes. It takes 2 seconds, guys. They've made it super simple to do that. Just click the 5-star button and leave a little message for me on there. I appreciate all you guys that have done it. I think there's probably 10 written reviews, 15 something reviews over there, but we need more to be able to be more visible and get more people listening to this. And I think that all of this information is certainly, helpful to the people out there that need it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you again, same place, same time, right here tomorrow morning on Morning Perspective. Have a great day, guys.